Every day I think to myself that Donald Trump's administration could not stoop lower. They could not commit more atrocious crimes. I also think that Karoline Leavitt couldn't be any worse at her job, but somehow every day I'm proven wrong. And especially today, after we saw a breaking news article out of The Atlantic that Donald Trump's administration admitted to illegally deporting a lawful resident of the United States. And as you would expect, Karoline Leavitt had a meltdown trying to defend that disgusting action. And not just that, she was also confronted by Peter Doocy. Yes, Fox's Peter Doocy for Donald Trump's disastrous economy. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now let's hear just the first meltdown from Leavitt.
Just changing subjects for 1 second. The administration has expressed a complete confidence in how all the deportation flights to El Salvador were conducted. But now that the administration has conceded that there was an error of one Salvadoran national, will there be any reviews conducted? And does the president express any thoughts on the one error that was disclosed in court last night?
Well, first of all, the error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking.
It was not a clerical error. I don't know how Karoline Leavitt is trying to say that her own administration, the people that she works for, are wrong in declaring that they unlawfully deported this man, and the excuses that she tries to make later on in this press briefing will just absolutely sicken you when she starts to attack the character of this man without any information except that her job is to be a propagandist and a stooge for Donald Trump, which she continued to do, again, without any evidence right here.
Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. A few questions about this deportation case. First, I wanted to clarify something that you said to Jeff a few minutes ago. You said you'd seen evidence that this man was a convicted gang member. In what court was he convicted and for what?
This individual was an MS-13 ringleader. This individual was also engaged in human trafficking. And I'm glad you brought up this point again, because I would like to point out that if you just saw the headline from the insane, failing Atlantic magazine this morning, you would think this individual was Father of the Year, living in Maryland, living a peaceful life, when that couldn't be further from the truth. They didn't even mention in the title of that article, or even in the first paragraph, that this individual is an illegal criminal who broke our nation's immigration laws. He is a leader in the brutal MS-13 gang, and he is involved in human trafficking, and now MS-13 is a designated foreign terrorist organization. Foreign terrorists have no legal protections in the United States of America, and this administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
But a judge...
What information does Karoline Leavitt have about what type of a father this man is? What type of information does Karoline Leavitt have about anything, for that matter? I remember her first day on the job, she said, "I don't need a binder. I got it all going on up here." And since that day, there's not been a lot going on up there besides hate and anger and vengeful rage. It is just so gross. And again, she is just so bad at her job. She's not a good liar. She's not distracting. She can't deflect, and she can't even give straight answers, like when she was asked about tariffs right here.
Caroline.
Sure.
Caroline,
Sure.
The president said over the weekend that he couldn't care less if prices went up on foreign cars because people buy more American cars. There's been consensus from a lot of economists that these tariffs could raise prices on other goods as well. Is the president comfortable with Americans on Main Street paying more because of these tariffs?
The president is doing everything he can, and this entire administration is doing everything we can to bring down the cost of living in this country. An inflation mess that was fueled by the previous administration's reckless spending, over burdensome regulations that this administration is focused on slashing every single day. I just read you a statistic just from the Environmental Protective Agency alone. We're saving taxpayers money that's ultimately going to drive down inflation, and we're unleashing the might of our energy industry, which will bring down prices as well. To the heart of your question, because this is very important to the American people, you should trust what this president did for you in his first term. He effectively utilized tariffs while driving down inflation. It was a record low 1.4% when he left office, and he's focused on getting back to that. It's unfortunate the previous administration left us in this mess.
Donald Trump said it himself. There is nothing Karoline Leavitt can do to defend him. He does not care if prices go up. He does not care if Americans are impacted. He does not care that he is currently waging the stupidest trade war in history. He doesn't care. It doesn't bother Donald Trump, and what a surprise that is. Doesn't seem like a lot of things do. But it's gotten to the point that it's so bad that even Fox now is asking, when is Trump going to wake up to harming the people who not only are citizens of the country he is president of, but got him into his office, which is exactly what Peter Doocy asked right here.
Peter.
Thank you, Karoline. When the president goes down to Florida on the weekends, does he ever hear from, there are so many retired folks down in Florida, does he ever hear from any retired Americans who are stressed about these wild swings in the stock market because of the tariff uncertainty, and they're sitting there on fixed income or living off a 401k, and they don't know how much money's going to be left?
Well, certainly they are legitimate concerns, and the president takes those concerns very seriously, and he's addressing them every single day. And tomorrow's announcement is to protect future generations of the senior citizens you mentioned. It's for their kids and their grandkids to ensure that there are jobs here in the United States of America for their children to live the American dream, just like they presumably did. And as for their worries about their 401ks, their Social Security, I just addressed Social Security. This president is always going to protect it for our tax-paying senior citizens. As for their 401ks, look at what President Trump did for you in his first term. He is working on implementing that economic formula every single day by lowering inflation, lowering energy prices, massive deregulatory efforts, while simultaneously effectively implementing tariffs, and they'll hear more about that announcement tomorrow.
And you said that
When Peter Doocy is questioning why this administration is causing so much economic hardship for people, you know it's bad. Peter Doocy, really? It's gotten to this point where even Fox is calling out the Trump administration? But that's where we are. It is a disastrous economy, and it is a slew of lies. And of course, we saw some from J.D. Vance last night tweeting away at Pod Save America's Jon Favreau, trying to lie his way out of this disgusting, unlawful deportation. And J.D. had to continuously delete posts because he kept stating lies, which Karoline Leavitt tried to cover up for right here.
Everyone who's been involved in these operations is focused on eradicating these criminals and terrorists from our communities.
The Vice President said he was a convicted member of MS-13. What evidence is there to back that up?
There's a lot of evidence, and the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have that evidence, and I saw it this morning.
There's lots of evidence? Then show us. Where is the evidence? Where is this evidence we speak of? Because you don't want to present it. You don't want to tell us who these people are. That has been the theme. That has been what we continue to see, that they are just trying to operate out of fear, intimidation, do it in the shadows, do it where no one can see, because they know what they're doing. It's breaking the law. And when they're held accountable, they really get upset.
This administration is going to continue to deport foreign terrorists and illegal criminals from our nation's interior.
But a judge ordered that he should remain in this country. So are you saying that it is okay to ignore a judge's ruling if you don't like it?
Who does that judge work for?
He's an immigration
It was an
judge.
immigration judge who works for the Department of Justice at the direction of the Attorney General of the United States, whose name is Pam Bondi, who has committed to eradicating MS-13 from our nation's interior. And let me
This is the point that the Trump administration continues to come back to, that it's activist judges, that these people are legislating from the bench, that Donald Trump is the most injuncted president in history. Yeah, because he's always breaking the law. Did you consider that he's always breaking the law? It is ridiculous, these calls for impeachment. And it's why we saw Jamie Raskin today ask Newt Gingrich, who for whatever reason was in front of a House committee, but asked him about these attempts to impeach judges.
From California essentially invited us to accept the deportation of someone from America without any due process at all, which the administration has admitted was a mistake, because now he's hypothesizing that person belongs to a different criminal gang and engaged in other different hypothetical crimes. And obviously, the reason why we have due process is because we can't try these cases in the Judiciary Committee of the House of Representatives. But just reading from a court document here, Plaintiff Abrego Garcia is not a member of, nor has any affiliation with Trenta Aragua, MS-13, or any other criminal or street gang. Although he's been accused of general gang affiliation, the U.S. government has never produced any evidence to support this unfounded accusation. He has no criminal history. He's never been charged or convicted of any criminal charges in the United States. So who knows? That's why we have due process. This shouldn't be just fodder for cable TV. We're talking about people's lives here. Professor Shaw, what does due process actually mean? And should Judge Boasberg be impeached for saying that the Alien Enemy Act of 1798 doesn't apply because we are not at war and we have not suffered an invasion by a foreign power?
You know, the core components of due process are straightforward, right? And it involves some notice and an opportunity to be heard, right, to make some sort of case in your own defense prior to deprivation of life, liberty, or property. So that's in the Constitution. Due process applies to every person, not just to citizens. And due process doesn't look identical if we're talking about due process in the context of potential deportation or due process in the context of, you know, a change to your Social Security benefits, right? Due process is deeply context dependent. And all Judge Boasberg has ruled as a preliminary matter in this case is that some sort of process has to be afforded before this potentially irreversible act occurs. Judge Boasberg has not ordered anyone released in the United States, has not objected to the detention of the covered individuals, has simply said provide reasons and an opportunity to respond. And
follow the law, right?
And follow the law. And it seems from public reporting as though there is real reason to believe that errors were made.
My colleagues are calling for the impeachment of Judge Boasberg. Has there ever been a federal district judge, a federal appeals court judge, or a U.S. Supreme Court justice impeached because someone disagrees with the content of their ruling?
We have no tradition of impeaching judges based on the contents of their rulings.
We impeach them for bribery or corruption or habitual drunkenness on the bench. Speaker Gingrich, by the way, do you agree with the Republicans and with Donald Trump and Elon Musk who are calling for the impeachment of these judges? That's a yes or no. Yeah.
I actually agree with Jefferson that impeachment is a cumbersome and difficult process, virtually impossible to achieve, which is why Jefferson...
So you oppose the impeachment?
Which is why Jefferson abolished 14 courts, because you could abolish...
Okay, Professor Shaw, forgive me, you remember the 5-minute rule. I've got no more time. It's a yes or no question, and I didn't get an answer from you. The Chief Justice Roberts has said that the correct response to disagreement with a district court decision is to appeal. I just heard Speaker Gingrich call this a judicial coup d'etat, and he said the Chief Justice should stop lecturing the rest of us. Who's right? Is it Newt Gingrich or is it Chief Justice Roberts here?
In this instance, Chief Justice Roberts.
The Law and Order Party, Law and Order, is anything but that. And it's a disgrace that they continue to refer to themselves that way. But we got to call it out. We're going to be every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.